Hello and welcome to the halfway point of the Off the Map 2020 race series. 2 races down, 2 to go, but it's all still to play for in the fight for GC team points. Now, of course, it's not just our elites who can take part in the Off the Map tour. We've got 4 stages open for the community to race, or like me, simply ride. An exclusive map kit to wear in-game, plus a matching real-life jersey to order upon completion. So if you haven't already gotten involved, what are you waiting for? Come and join us. First up today, our elite men will be tackling the Rising Empire circuit, which we saw the women do battle on in dramatic style on Friday. And joining me is a guy who would have liked this course when he was racing, Pat Shaw. Pat, this is a good circuit, and the women showed it in Friday's race.
Well, certainly is, and it is one that would have excited me when I was much fitter, Matt, but certainly against this group of riders who are racing ultra aggressively in the first 2 races, I think this is going to be a scary round to be part of. Some new introduced riders tonight, some fresh legs. That's going to help a couple of the teams, but it's Canyon Esports that reigns supreme at this moment.
They are going to take some beating, and it'll be interesting to see who can get a hold of them. Jay Vine is the obvious candidate. Just quickly, anybody else who stands out who can really challenge at esports?
Cooper Sayers, if he can come through with the goods tonight. I think he's a really strong performer. He had a few issues on Monday night, but he'll be back and he'll be strong tonight along with Jay Vine.
Let's take a look back at what happened in race number 2 of the Off the Map Tour.
To be getting a third in a sprint that doesn't really suit me at all against those guys is pretty cool.
How do you see your chances for Thursday?
It looked awesome. A max effort every 5 or 6 minutes. I'm pretty keen on that.
He is looking like he's digging pretty deep. What a race again. It's come down to the finish. Were you concerned?
I was a bit not about sure about the sprint at the end, but then Oli came back on me and it was a perfect leader for me. I'm so happy I could jump him on the line, so he's 1-1, man.
It's his teammate Vujusan who is chasing.
Really stoked for Lionel to get that win and to be on the podium as well is awesome.
An honest answer and an honest answer only. Lead out or you're going for the win?
No, I was going for the win, of course.
Congratulations, Lionel. Third on Friday night. Winner tonight. And Scary Bunny does it again.
A great response that from Ollie Jones. And as for Lionel, Pat, I could hardly hear a thing he was saying. I was just focusing on the bunny ears. Let's take a look at the overall standings. Canyon Esports in a dominant position at the top of the table on 185 points. It's then Indoor Specialists on 137 points. They looked pretty good as well on Friday. They had strong numbers out in front. St Kilda Cycling Club is the next best on 79, followed by Sydney CC, the team of Jay Vine, and then it's the ever-popular team Aussie Hump Day Ride, Pat. But it's a commanding position for Canyon Esports.
It certainly is, and they haven't put a foot wrong, and in fact, it was a great race by them on Monday. But Indoor Specialists probably slipped up a little bit. They had 4 in that front group. It slipped back to 3 after Box Hill the final time, and they really had that opportunity to close the gap, albeit they didn't lose too many points. They need to be better tonight.
And if you're looking for the Canyon Esports team, that is the avatar with the MAAP jersey that they'll be wearing as the leaders of the series, and I do like it, Pat. One of the key members of that team that's helped them get into such a strong position is not Ollie Jones, but it's another Kiwi, Alex West. So we sent Greg Henderson, a 5-time Olympic representative for New Zealand, to catch up with him so we could learn a little bit more about their not-so-secret weapon. Here he is, Alex West.
It's West now who moves into first position with a massive surge. West coming through, flying 500 watts plus. What a virtuoso performance by the 23-year-old from New Zealand.
Top 3 in the Zwift Academy finalists out of 30,000 entrants, and now you've actually signed with the first ever professional e-racing team with Canyon ZCC. How did that all come about, mate?
I started proper Zwift racing late 2018. I just started doing as many races as I could, especially the ones that had the live streams on at the time on Zwift Community Live. I saw that the Canyon team was starting up. I managed to convince our team manager Reese that he should give me a chance.
You had a very nasty crash in 2018, which saw you retire from professional road cycling. You're on the pathway towards a goal of yours, which might have been World Tour rider?
Naturally, any cyclist goes through a lot of crashes, and as a road cyclist, yeah, you go through many. Lots of them are just, obviously you can brush them off and then you're fine. This one was just enough to sort of say to myself that wasn't really what I was looking for. Zwift racing was a real good way to just keep that competitive spirit alive, really, and you kind of get addicted to it in the end.
So what's the best part of racing and training on Zwift?
For sure, the racing side of it is definitely the competitiveness. A big improvement I've seen for myself since switching to Zwift is just having that extra time to kind of enjoy myself a little bit more.
We heard from your DS, Reese Howell, that you're renowned for being the rider who finishes with the lowest watts per kilogram.
Yep.
He reckons it's your main priority, mate. Don't worry about the win, worry about the lowest watts per kilogram. Are there any tricks of the trade you can share with us?
I do like to aim for the lowest watts per kg. Basically, you just want to conserve energy all the time. You really have to have a bit of racer's instinct and know where the pace is going to be put on. So you'll always find me in the top 5 to 10 when it's on a crucial moment.
Race number 2 in the Off the Map Tour. Alex West is up towards the front.
The difference between your Indoor Specialist taking out the overall points victory tonight.
Westy coming back from a really painful back injury to be in the top 10 again today is really promising for us.
Pat, I think I need a tutorial with Alex on getting through events and races with the lowest watts per kilo and still being up near the front.
Well, that's the key. You've got to still be up the front, Matt. Lowest watts per kilo, that's easy. But being competitive, that's another thing. And Alex really showed on Monday night that he has got good form, and he's really the difference maker for them in the end. So hopefully he can have another strong race tonight.
Well, we saw the women race around this course on Friday, but we've also got Matt Stevens to take us through Rising Empire and what the men can expect for race number 3. Here's Matt Stevens giving us an insight into what's in front of them.
New York's Rising Empire has been described as a climber's delight. Now, I'm not sure how delighted our riders will be today, however, when they find out they've got to take it on twice. With forward and reverse KOM efforts separated by less than 3 kilometres, our competitors will be climbing just shy of 2 Empire State Buildings before the race is through. From the starting pens, we'll be travelling north towards the north side of the park, and then out onto the glass roads, heading south over the reservoir and towards the first of our 4 climbs, the forward KOM. We'll then loop back around onto the reverse KOM before descending to ground level and doing the whole thing all over again. With 4 opportunities to snatch KOM points, 2 intermediate sprints, as well as points available at the Cat's Paw Hill, there'll be no letting up on the first or second time around.
It is a tough course, Pat. We saw the women, they finished in pieces on Friday. It's 41.4 kilometres, altitude gain throughout of 724 metres. In terms of the race, for those all-important GC points for their team, sprints on the forward KOM, the sprint point in the middle, the reverse KOM, but importantly, the finish line, Pat. 25 points up for grabs, and you get a couple of riders on the podium, as the Canyon Esports team have done in each of the races so far. Your street's ahead.
Well, it can help. It can go a long way to helping, but Indoor Specialist in particular will have to be aggressive in those intermediate points on offer as well. And 700 metres plus elevation gain over just 41 kilometres, it's real tough.
It is. Let's take a look at the power-ups. This is always important, particularly if it does come down to a sprint finish, whether that be between a group of 15 riders or just 2 riders. Having the right power-up at the right time can make all the difference. And we saw a really tight finish between Vujilson and Jones on Friday. Everybody wants the lightweight for those climbs, but Pat, the aero surely for the sprint finish.
Oh, 100%. And to be honest, it's the difference maker, because Jay Vine with an aero power-up versus Ollie Jones with a lightweight at the finish line would mean Jay Vine would be easily winning that stage. So it's going to be a big one. Lightweight's going to be crucial, and you're going to want it a few times on tonight's stage, but the aero power-up at the finish. Look, it was executed to perfection by Vujilson just the other night, where he had the aero power-up, got in the draft first, and then punched the aero right for the line, taking out the win in front of Ollie Jones. But maybe it can be someone different tonight.
Well, let's take a look at who it might be. Some of the riders to watch. Alex West from Canyon Esports. We've already taken a close look at him. The Swedish Zwifters, Samuel Brandland, they were good on Friday. They had strong numbers out in front.
Yeah, they certainly did. Fell a little bit to the wayside with the aggression up Box Hill the second time. Well, after Leith Hill, should I say. So it'll be interesting tonight to see whether they send someone on the attack.
Mikey Mottram from Vitus Pro Cycling. Sam Lindsay, the St Kilda Cycling Club, they're always good. We saw Mark O'Brien really aggressive on Friday. And Holden Camo from Indoor Specialists. That's a team that we saw a lot of their jerseys at the front on Friday.
They're going to have to be there again tonight. Maybe Holden can help out big time with some points on offer early on. So be interesting to see what Indoor Specialists do. Really, it's all the balls are in their court. They've got to get them back over the fence and try and win some points tonight.
The racing is already underway, so let's get down to the action and see what's happening in race at number 3 of the Off the Map Tour, where Canyon Esport hold a dominant position at the top of the GC standings for the team's classification, which is what this series is all about, Pat, and I like that it's focused on racing as a team. Here we are with the main group as they're on one of the key climbs, and this is quite the gradient.
Well, it's a tough course the whole time. There's barely any rest, and it's Vujilson already in an aggressive position at the front, at the peloton. We're getting this after 16 kilometres of racing, Matt, and in just 22 minutes they have been absolutely flying.
And Holden Como, who we've just spoken about, unfortunately, he's a dropout early in the race. Here's Lionel Vujasan, who you spoke to last week with the bunny ears on. He's applying some pressure near the front of the race, and he's a rider with plenty of horsepower. Mark O'Brien also at the front. Mark O'Brien will like these climbs. Pat, he doesn't want it to come down to a sprint, and he's trying to put the Belgian under pressure.
Well, this is a really great course for him tonight, because with the several ascents, this is going to really offer him plenty of chances to split up the bunch, and we can see a lot of orange numbers already, Matt.
They're making their way to the all-important KOM points, hence the pressure is really being applied at the front. And for the overall standings, the St Kilda Cycling Club team, they need to make every post a winner to try and close that gap and get themselves somewhere within striking distance of Canyon Esports before the final race on Monday.
Well, Trinity Road Racing. Sorry, Matt, but Trinity Road Racing with Zach Johnson, we haven't seen him yet in the series, and he is going to take some good points up the top here. And it's fantastic to see Zach, because he's such a strong performer on Zwift, and he can be a bit of a game changer tonight.
Oh, he's been so good on this platform. He's been winning just about every race that we've seen him enter in, and he is applying a fair bit of pressure at the front. But again, picking up the lion's share of the points at the front, Pat, it has been the Canyon Esports team with some of the earlier points in the race, along with the indoor specialists and Team Aussie Hump Day Ride. But Zach Johnson showing loads of strength at the front of the race. Jones right behind him. Cutler not far off the pace either.
And your man Brandland from the Swedish Zwifters, he's right up there as well. So it's good to see him showing some good form also to pick up a point on the King of the Mountain. But it was Zach Johnson took the maximum points. It's again Canyon Esports that picks up second and third. Tim Cutler there for Aussie Hump Day Riders team. He's a really strong rider and will really enjoy this course tonight as well. He's quite similar to Zach Johnson, maybe just a little less polished, no offence, but Zach Johnson does seem to just get a little bit higher in the rankings. But Tim Cutler, big engine, Matt, big engine.
And again, we're seeing, dealing with the climbs, Ollie Jones. He's renowned as being a rider on Zwift that can sprint quite well. Jay Vine has even spoken about how much horsepower Ollie Jones has got when it comes down to the finish of one of these races, as we're on board with the Kiwi right now, into the super tuck position, trying to bring that heart rate back down. And Pat, at almost the halfway mark, and Ollie is cruising with a heart rate below 150 beats per minute. He's doing this easy. He's making it look like an active recovery ride.
I'm not so sure about an active recovery ride, but what he shows is that he comes prepared every week, and once again, he is our ride-on rider of the race. And if you want to jump on your Zwift companion app, chuck a few ride-ons on each of these riders, one of your favourites for the night, and at the end of this race tonight, they'll see who has the most ride-ons out of the whole race. They will wear that jersey that Ollie Jones has on tonight.
And I always expect plenty of support for anybody who rides for the Aussie Hump Day Ride team. They've got a really strong community on Zwift. Jay Vine up towards the front. Good to see him getting himself in the mix. Well, he's always there, isn't he, Pat? He very rarely misses the move. Alex West, who we saw that feature on him. There's Jay out of the saddle. Stretching the legs, I would suggest, given what the wattage output is from Jay at the moment, and the heart rate is at 128 beats per minute. For some people, Pat, that's just getting off the couch.
Certainly, that is my heart rate recently when getting off the couch. But Jay, we always expect him in the front group. Great to see Alex West up there as well. He had a great performance on Monday night as we see Ollie Jones in that distinct blue jersey really pushing off the front now. And this is a serious attack here. Interesting because Canyon Esports aren't really in a position where they have to go aggressive, but it shows his desire to race. Jay Vine, he's not having anything of it. Tim Cutler there, Alex West, Zach Johnson, Sam Lindsay, who we've spoken about, had a great race on Monday night as well, Matt. So some of these riders really finding some good form, and this is going to make the next two races really exciting.
Well, perhaps for the Canyon Esports team, Pat, as we see Ollie Jones in his ride-on jersey go on the attack. it could be similar to De Koenig Quickstep when it comes to the Spring Classics. They've got 3 or 4 guys who can win the race. Who's the protected rider? Whoever's the first to get into the major breakaway. That might be Ollie's strategy tonight.
Well, it might be the strategy. It certainly is working because he's now 6 seconds off the front. This is a serious move now, and it's starting to see responses from Cutler. It's starting to see Mark O'Brien also get involved, and now we see Zach Johnson in the orange numbers as well. This is going to be a brutal race tonight, and we're almost halfway through in under half an hour.
And he's riding along Ollie Jones, and I say riding along in inverted commas, at 5.5, 6 watts per kilo. When it dips down a little bit, the gradient backs off, he eases off ever so slightly, but as soon as there's a little bit of a rise, he is really on the pedals. Zach Johnson, one of your favourites in this format, in fact in any format, he's doing a lot of the chasing now, showing himself up at the front, as through the sprint points by the looks of it, Ollie Jones has set up and now he has been caught.
Yeah, so it's all back together again, but these surges of pace, and particularly an attack such as that one that Jones has just put in, really does leave a dent in the armoury for the rest of the field. So it'll be interesting to see how we go forward from here in the second half of the race.
Well, there's not a lot left in this front group, Pat. It's been thinned out really quickly. It's been a super aggressive start to the race, and they're just a little bit over halfway.
Yeah, Gavin Dempster there as well, Matt, and he's really been a rider that for indoor specialists that's carried a large amount of their points so far. So he'll be looking for a strong finish again tonight, and at the moment I think he might be their only rider in this front group. So they'll be a little bit disappointed with that representation, but all the weight is on Dempster for them.
This is Mark O'Brien now up the front. And
Mark O'Brien's
Dempster.
always going to be aggressive, and he loves this style of race too, this on-off. It's almost like the overs and unders that he loves to prepare so much for the national championships. We know this now. We're looking at the chase pack. Well, there's a lot of work to do in this chase pack, and certainly for indoor specialists, they would be hoping that a few of their riders can make the way back. Sitting second on the classification at the moment as we go inside Joey Walker's house. He's riding for the Trinity Sports team. It's got Zach Johnson in that front group, and he looks really, really good for a result tonight. But 300 watts in this second group at 154 beats per minute, probably not at his maximum. So it makes you wonder just how badly they want to get back to the front of the race.
Well, those numbers, I would have declared that, Pat, not enough to get back across to the front of the race.
Yes, particularly when Mark O'Brien's pushing around that 5 watts per kilo in that front group, and we're seeing around 4.5 back here for Joey Walker. So we head back to that front group and see that rider in particular, Mark O'Brien. About time Mark did something, I'd say, Matt.
You say that as a close friend, you can get away with it when you know that it's not behind his back, it's straight to his face, and Marco is rising to the challenge. As soon as you say it, there he goes. He's on the march. He must be tuning in, Pat. Mark O'Brien is attacking.
Yes, and he's got another rider in that front group, Sam Lindsay, and they've really they've done it well, particularly on Monday night. They did get a little bit wrong in the sprint finish, but unfortunately they came up against 2 riders that were absolutely on their game, and that was Ollie Jones and Vujasan. To be fair, Ollie Jones was going for the win, Matt. He wasn't giving him a lead out, but it just worked out perfect that the 1-2 happened. Mark O'Brien, now he raises that pace again, and he's known for his aggressive racing.
Importantly, there are 3 riders from Canyon Esports in this front group. One of them has the blue jersey on for the ride-on, and that is Ollie Jones. The other 2, number 16 and number 12, they're wearing the distinctive MAAP jersey for the off-the-map tour as the leaders of the team's classification. Mark O'Brien, he's tried once, Pat. That didn't succeed. Try twice.
Yes. If try once and it doesn't work, then go again, and Mark O'Brien will continue to go. Problem is, this front group has got so many like-minded riders. Tim Cutler is a similar cut. Alex West, very similar in his way of racing as well. Zach Johnson, definitely very similar type of rider to Mark O'Brien. So it's interesting when you get these groups that have very similar riders of characteristics that it's difficult for them to form a breakaway because they all want the same thing.
Just responding to one of the questions on the Facebook page for Zwift Live about the women's race. Is there a dedicated feed to the women's race? Yes, there is. It's coming directly after this. The men and the women across the Off the Map Tour, they all race on the same course, just not on the same night. We're changing it up a little bit. It was on Friday that the women rode across this course, and it was Jackie Godby who put in a dominant performance in the women's event. Here's Gavin Dempster, who drives it from the bathroom across to Zwift and always out in front, Pat. And once again, he's got himself just on the edge.
Well, there's some orange numbers popping, and he's following those orange numbers, and he's pushing around that 8 watts per kilo, 600 watts, and he's been pushing that for quite a period there. So now he makes contact with those front riders. This is a tough stage tonight, and you can see they're not holding too much back, but it's almost as if Ollie Jones has seen this gap that Canyon Esports has developed on the general classification. There's almost a little bit of let me off the chain, let me go and have some fun.
I like that Gavin's got the spare bike there with him as well, just in case things go wrong. I mean, you can have a mechanical on Zwift, and you can have an electrical, or you can have a Wi-Fi fault. There's a whole lot of things that can go wrong. One thing that hasn't been going wrong for George Mills-Keeling is not much at all, because he's been one of the strongest riders in this series. I've got to admit, Pat, I've not seen him race before. I like what I see.
Certainly seems to know whereabouts to be in the racing. He was in that front group up until Box Hill on Monday night, and he was 5th or 6th in first race. So he's really been quite consistent, in fact, and he'll be looking for another good race tonight. I don't know so much whether this chase pack can make it all the way back, and in fact, probably not, but still a strong top 20 finish would be good.
But are they at a point, you talk about the top 20, there's still a lot of points up for grabs. Are they in that position now as they're down to around about 16 kilometres still to race, where the front group is gone? Stop worrying about chasing the front group, assess the ones that are around you, and aim on taking maximum points of what's left to get as many points as you can for your team in the general classification.
Well, that's all you really can do in this situation, and it's sometimes it's the same in real life racing. If the team's GC is a objective for the team, which many teams I've been part of in the past, that's what we've focused on. There's always that great camaraderie in getting up on the podium as a team, and believed in that. So that's probably just what you have to do. You have to turn your focus to, right, I'm in second group now. I've got to make the best of this group. So I can't let any more riders ride away from me.
And think of the long term, the big gain. And there's real pride in finishing in the top 10 or in the top 5 and challenging for the podium. As we're still
Certainly.
on board with George Mills-Keeling.
Well, certainly at the front, there's no resting up. And now we see George, he's really got to pump out some power there. 5.5 watts per kilo he's pushing towards. And still relatively in a good zone for his RPM, so his revs per minute. Anything between that sort of 80 and 100 is really quite comfortable. 170 beats per minute. And this chase group is a little bit more motivated, I'd say, than what it seemed 4 or 5 kilometres ago. But it's like sand through the hourglass. The kilometres are ticking down quite quick, Matt, and that's making it a very difficult equation for them.
They are ticking down quickly. It looks at the moment as if the front group has just taken this opportunity to back off the pedals ever so slightly. They're reducing their wattage output as we take a look at Gavin Dempster, Scotland versus Great Britain. The left-hand side of the screen by comparison to the right, the lead group versus the chasing group. And the leaders, you've got to make the most of any opportunity to get a little bit of rest in a Zwift race, Pat, because there aren't many.
Well, this second group, I can tell you, is now really motivated. They seem to really see this as a possibility to make its way back. I tell you what, it's a salivating prospect that they may catch back up and make this front group somewhat around the 20-25 rider size, which would be interesting because some aggression could be led from this, Matt. We've seen it before. Riders come back from second group. They think, well, what the heck? I'll throw in an attack. I've got nothing to lose. Next minute, they're in the front selection and they're vying for the top 5 positions in the race. So looks like Mark O'Brien here. Is it off the front? It certainly will be one of the St Kilda Cycling Club members.
It would be a fair guess, and it is Mark O'Brien, who is once again off the front. That chasing group's been making good progress, Pat. Their deficit down to 13 seconds. It went quickly from 20 to 13, but it appears as if the front group, they're about to hit the next climb. Mark O'Brien, the chasers have caught his attention, and now as the rest of that lead group try and catch O'Brien, it will force the entire tempo to go up.
Yes, well, Mark O'Brien, he didn't like the prospect of a group swelling. In fact, as a non-sprinter type rider, he really wants little to no riders with him coming to the finish line. And certainly, as we see a replay of this attack that Mark O'Brien does surge off the front, and he had the ghost, he had the invisibility cloak on. So he's taken advantage of that. And Matt, I think that's actually the first time we've seen it used properly. So it's great to see one of the old timers getting in there and using some new technology to his advantage.
It was used to perfection. I can remember commentating on Mark O'Brien in an under-17s motor pace race where he used a real-life invisibility. Nobody thought he could sprint. The motor pace came off the track, a Victorian title, and he attacked straight away. And they didn't see him again until the presentation. It was ideal.
Yeah, they caught back up at the presentation. That one's a good one. This group looks like they're coming back. There they are. And the chasers, well, I have to give a tip of the hat to them, Matt, because I didn't see them with any prospects at all of making their way back earlier when it was the likes of Ollie Jones and Vujasan and Gavin Dempster all being aggressive at the front. But this is a big group now, 25 riders now amalgamate at the front. With 13 kilometres to go, this could be anyone's race.
Oh, this is huge. You say you didn't give them any chance. I started talking about riders in that group contemplating soaking up being best of the rest. I was way off the mark. This is a fantastic performance. Hats off to them, Pat Shaw. They've done a brilliant job to rejoin, and all of a sudden the front of the race has swollen significantly.
So 25 riders in this front group. Some of these teams are really well represented. So this is a good chance for them to potentially talk on their social media outlets as we see Vujasan in the angry rabbit cage. As we will see him after the stage. If he finishes the top 3, he'll put that bunny mask back on. But he's just cruising at the moment. Not too much afoot, but certainly some opportunities here now for some of the teams.
Pat, we spoke at the start about riders to watch and Team Swedish Zwifters. They have 5 riders in the race. 4 of them have managed to make it into the front group. That's a fantastic performance.
Yes, and well, now you'd like to see them leverage that, go on the attack, try and make some a little bit of some troubled area for some of the better teams that have been performing better, some uncertainty. And we've seen it in the Virtual National Road Series and the SRAM Senate Series earlier in the year, Matt. Some of the younger riders who were a little bit more adventurous about their tactics almost pulled off some big victories.
Yeah, fortune favours the brave, as the old cliche goes. This group has swollen significantly, and I feel, Pat, as if the pace has backed off a little bit as a result of that. And I think that as soon as there's a little rise in the road, we might see the likes of Ollie Jones decide this group's too big, let's go again, as they're on to the next climb.
Yes, well, they certainly won't be wanting to take any chances. As I said, some of these riders, they get to the finish line and all of a sudden the white line fever kicks in and they become champions in a split of a second. So we've seen it, as I said, in those other series that we've spoken about before, as they approach another point to collect some more points. It's Lindsay that's showing a strong performance off the front, Alex West behind him, and Lindsay's been picking up some pretty valuable points for St Kilda Cycling Club.
And Mark O'Brien up towards the front. This is the reverse KOM. They're less than 1 kilometre before they do reach the top. Ollie Jones in the distinctive blue jersey as the leader of the ride-on classification. And if you're on watching here, just make sure you've got the Zwift companion with you. Give one of the riders a ride on, and that might be the rider who on Monday in the 4th and final race of the Off the Map Tour gets to wear that blue jersey. It might be almost as sought after, Pat, as the MAAP team classification leaders' jerseys. Gavin Dempson out the front.
Well, they're both really quite impeccable to look at, but it's certainly, I think you'd like the ride on. You'd be the most popular if you have the ride on jersey. It doesn't matter about the result, it's popularity, Matt. And one rider that makes me think of him is that just slid into this front group, Ryland Dowdle. He was also a strong performer in the winter months in Australia most recently. So a strong performer, he's got a second chance tonight, a second bite at the apple. Could he do something with it?
Cutler, it is now at the front, followed by Mark O'Brien. Zach Johnson once again, as he was on the previous climb, where Zach Johnson picked up maximum points. Jay Vine, the watts per kilo, they're starting to move into the red numbers as Vine gets himself to the front, being hunted by none other than Vujasan and Jones. And Jones, he's not just the ride-on leader, he is the race leader. Over the top for maximum points, followed by his teammate Vujasan. It was then O'Brien, followed by Johnson.
Yeah, such a strong field in this particular race tonight. Johnson, Jones, Vujasan and Brawland. That was the last time around. This time it seems that Jones and Vujasan are a little bit stronger and picked up some maximum points again for Canyon Esports, and they continue to reign supreme. There's no doubt about it. And I just wonder whether the likes of O'Brien and Lindsay, who are a long way back now, albeit in the top 5 in the team's general classification, start to think more about race victories rather than just intermediate sprints.
Canyon Esports, they've picked up plenty of points once again. Indoor Specialists and then Trinity Road followed by St Kilda. Team Sweden, the Swedish Zwifters have managed to pick up a few points as well, which is always good to see. And then the Aussie Hump Day Ride crew followed by Sydney CC. So Pat, Canyon Esports, they continue to extend their advantage. They'll take some beating from here, and any of their rivals, they really need to occupy the top 3 placings on the stage today to maximise their point gain.
And probably again on Monday evening as well. But I just see this as an opportunity, Matt. If you're one of these teams that maybe has only got 1 rider or 2 riders in this front group, albeit more select now, this is an opportunity to attack, throw caution to the wind, go for a race win. I know Canyon are hungry to go for a 3rd victory in a row, but try and make it difficult for them. And certainly bringing it down to a sprint shows the form sits heavily with Jones and Vujasan.
And the group, it has thinned out. Jones going up towards the front in the blue jersey. Alex West, who we've featured before. And it was really intriguing story with Alex West, Pat, and that awful crash that he had. Horrible crash for Alex, but it is Zwift's gain because he's been great to watch on this format. And I'm glad we haven't lost him to cycling, because whether it's mountain biking or whether it's road race or track cycling, it's all still cycling. Likewise, it is on Zwift. Coming up towards another one of the sprints, and we're seeing plenty of horsepower at the front with Vujasan, the winner on Friday. He wears the MAAP leaders jersey, as do a couple of his teammates in this group, and Ollie Jones, his other teammate's going to pip him at the post again to get maximum points. Was that a lead out, Pat? Or was he just going for the win? He was going for the win.
Yeah, going for the win, and Zach Johnson picking up 3rd there, and Sam Lindsay in 4th. Well, it's the same story, and it's just quite so impressive that Jones and Vujasan, they can go so deep on the King of the Mountain. They come down the other side, and there they are, again at the top of the leaderboard for the intermediate sprint. And as you see to the left now, those points are just staggering how many points they're picking up. The other teams across the board are sharing the points quite well, but now's the time. They've gone for 2 big intermediates, 1 King of the Mountain and an intermediate sprint. They've got to be deep. But you have a look at Ollie Jones' heart rate, Matt Keenan, 163 beats per minute. How's it even possible?
And he looks so comfortable. I know he's very good at playing that game of poker and keeping everything composed, but you can't lie about your heart rate, Pat. That is really under control.
Yeah, 160 beats per minute shows that really, his recovery is just phenomenal, and it shows that obviously his fitness at the moment is also phenomenal. So he's obviously cruising just softly on the pedals at the moment, under 100 watts, just trying to regain some form of feelings in the legs before this finish. 7.2 kilometers to go. It's been an absolute blistering pace, and the job is almost done for Canyon Esports. A strong finish on the line tonight, and well, on Monday we'll have a dead rubber, as they call it, but certainly they'll still want to win.
Yeah, but it's not a dead rubber for everybody else. It's still important to be racing for second place, for third place in the series, as we take a look at a replay of the sprint finish. And Pat, I'm convinced there's a big battle between Vujasan and Jones to show who is the best from that team. And at the moment, Jones and Vujasan are neck and neck, one win apiece.
Well, they're one win apiece, and they're picking up quite a lot of intermediate points also. But something that they are doing really well is they're filling the gaps too. So every time Vujasan or Jones finishes first and second, they're taking away twice the points that the other teams can pick up. So, and what we're seeing is that unfortunately the other teams are just fighting for the scraps, third and fourth, and they're sort of rotating as teams through those third and fourth places. So no one's really accumulating a large amount of points. The only ones accumulating a large amount of points are our off-the-map tour leaders, and that is the Canyon Esports team.
Significantly reduced lead group now. We take a look at Jay Vine, who was on the front momentarily. Now it's the St Kilda colours once again of Mark O'Brien going through to the front. The pinkish jerseys, that's the MAAP off the tour, off the MAAP tour leaders. I'll get there eventually, Pat. Off the MAAP tour leaders jersey being worn by the Canyon Esports team. They also have the blue jersey in this group, which is one of their teammates. That's Ollie Jones. He wears the Ride On jersey, and it's the in-game jersey from MAAP. And if you do all four of the events, which you can do across 2 weeks, you can either do a race or you can just do a mass participation event, and then you'll unlock the opportunity to buy that unique MAAP jersey to take out into the real world. In his garage at the moment, well, not quite his garage, it looks more like his living room for Jay Vine. He's punching out 400 watts, but still pretty cruisy.
Yes, in the Vine Cave, and I'm sure Bree will be getting warmed up for her event, which follows straight after this. And they've both been phenomenal over the winter period in Australia. What was great to see, Matt, was when we were having a look at Ollie Jones in the ride-on jersey, we saw so many blue illuminated thumbs up in the back pocket. So all those ride-ons. So if you jump on this Zwift companion app, jump on and put some ride-ons on some of these riders so we can maybe see someone else wear that jersey. I mean, Ollie Jones is our favourite, but it would be nice to share it around a little bit. Come on, Ollie.
Yeah, well, you know, it's a contest that Ollie's clearly keen to win, along with every other contest. Now they're climbing. This is where it gets serious. Ollie's not worried about ride on at this point. He's just worried about watts per kilo and going not just with the front, but going off the front. As you can see, that blue jersey open up the smallest of gaps. Mark O'Brien also towards the front of the race. The reactions are now coming. Dempster is amongst them.
Real stiff climb and sharpens up towards the top. So it's all about riding a good even climb here. And notably Jay Vine, he knows this climb really, really well. And you can see he's kind of staying within himself on that live cam. But it'll be interesting to see over the top whether a big acceleration comes with under 5 kilometres to go. This could be a real spot to launch for victory.
Alex West, he's been quiet, Alex West, and we heard in that feature piece on him that he likes to get through a race with the lowest watts per kilo. And Pat, he's been really, really smart. He hasn't wasted any energy at all.
No, very smart rider, and as you alluded to before, it was difficult for him to come back from that big crash in 2018. But it is great that we haven't lost him to cycling because he has so much to offer. And we have a look at a couple of his numbers now. They're absolutely flying up this climb at 26 kilometres an hour, don't mind you. Sitting on almost 500 watts and at a good revs per minute. Around that 95 revs per minute mark, which is quite comfortable. Still some room for him to move in his heart rate as they go inside the last kilometre to the Kina Mountain points. position. And who will it be this time? Zach Johnson right on the front, trying to really put some big pressure on. Jay Vine right there as well. But Ollie Jones, he's not giving any room at all.
Oh, can anybody get the better of Ollie Jones? He's been winning King of the Mountains intermediate sprints. Zach Johnson's pouring on the pressure. Mark O'Brien has not been too far away at any point. Jay Vine has been threatening, but not quite getting the points so far in race number 3. Here we'll look at the numbers for Zach Johnson, but a big move coming forward, and you can see the numbers are going to orange, and it's Dempster from the depths of his bathroom in Scotland who's got himself to the fronts and picking up maximum points, or is he? Because Jay Vine is breathing down his neck. This will be tight. Dempster, he's timed the run pretty well, Pat. He's got an advantage of around about 2 seconds. Almost 2 seconds his advantage. Quality though, doing the chasing, it's still steep.
Well, it's steep and it punches right up here, as I said before. And look at that. That's how you use a power-up. And Jay Vine's used it to absolute perfection. But this isn't for the King of the Mountain. This is for the win. He's gone hard. Matt, orange numbers, big reactions from Jones, Johnson. Dempster's trying again. Mark O'Brien as well. But this is a move to take the points, but then to go on and try and take out the stage. Ollie Jones remains in orange numbers with Vine, but the others seem to be struggling to keep the power up, and this gap is going out.
Well, they're just inside 4 kilometres remaining. Jay Vine has taken maximum points at the final King of the Mountains prize before going to the one that really matters, the finish line, with 25 points up for grabs. And Ollie Jones, he knows the threat, and he's chasing hard. You're right, Pat. It's still orange numbers for Jay Vine. It's then Jones, Johnson and Dempster doing the chasing.
Yes, and there's riders everywhere. Most of them are just separated. They're probably just getting that sign up. Close the gap. It's a frustrating thing to see as a rider on Zwift, but not many are seeing the OK sign. They're seeing the close the gap sign. Jay Vine, he's extremely motivated. He's got about 4 seconds lead here. Can he break Jones? Can he break Jones? Something no one's been able to do just yet in the Off the Map Tour. 3 kilometres to go. This has been an impressive move from Jay Vine.
It sounds almost like we're moving into auctioneer mode, Pat. Going. Third and final time. Jay Vine might be gone. He will be so tough to catch from there.
Well, it's a strong group of riders, and because of probably the lack of sprinters in the group, there might be some good aggressive moves come out of the pack from Cutler, from O'Brien, and from Sam Lindsay. Or does Alex West go to the front and put it on the line for Jones and Vujasan? It's going to be interesting.
Well, we can see the chase is on, and it's on in earnest. You see, once they get to those red numbers with the wattage output, you know that they're into the red zone in a big way. Cutler chasing and doing a good job of it. He's got some quality company to assist him.
Yes, and this is the thing, that you're getting riders from outside of Canyon Esports doing all the work for them. So this puts Jones and Vujasan and West in a really strong position. A good lead out here probably would absorb the advantage that Jay Vine has at the moment. He would be praying that he has an aero power up to pump out at around the 400 metre to go range. But this is looking like a strong performance from the chasing group.
Well, Jay Vine, he has been reeled back in. Jones looking very good. There he is in the blue jersey, the ride-on jersey, sitting towards the back of this group. Mark O'Brien is hot on his heels. 1,200 metres remaining, and it's not a simple sprint, Pat. Power-ups will be crucial. Who's got what, and when do they use it?
Well, it's going to be a little bit of a crazy finish. You've got the sprinters, which would probably be mostly like Jones and Vujasan on even playing field. Zach Johnson, Jay Vine on that next line. I'd love to see Gavin Dempster go for a long ranger and just jump out the side, catch him off guard.
Well, Jay Vine, once again, trying to put a bit of pressure on. Mark O'Brien, he's taken a run at them from behind. He's inside the last kilometre. He's tried this before. He's trying desperately to catch them by surprise.
Oh, what a beautiful move, and it could be just the move that's required. Good on him for having a crack. 800 metres to go. Mark O'Brien looking the goods here, but is the gap big enough with the aero power-ups coming from behind?
He's got 500 metres to go. It's O'Brien being bowled, but it's O'Brien who's been caught, and it's Johnson who gets there first. Cutler blasts on through. Jay Vine after the big attack. He's sticking with them. He responds to the move by Cutler. He gets his nose in front, but ever so slightly. It's now Vujasan in the MAAP kit, the team leaders, the race leaders. It's Lionel Vujasan who's trying to make it back-to-back wins. Jones is also challenging. It's going to be tight on the line. Jones, Vujasan, either way, it's Canyon Esports who consolidate their position at the top of the Off the Map Tour.
Well, they've just been so strong, and it's a photo finish for third as well between Zach Johnson and Gavin Dempster. Jay Vine in fifth, Tim Cutler. Mark O'Brien, he gave it a nudge. He tried his best, and it's going to be rounding out. Coming home, there'll be a good sprint finish between Lindsay, West, and Sutton. Looks like Sutton's going to take it out for Vitus. So that'll be a good performance for Sutton to finish in the top 10 there as well, rounding out 8th place. But it certainly is Canyon Esports all the way as we see that replay coming through. Actually, that's the sprint finish of that group that just came through. And Canyon Esports just so strong as we see the replay now, Matt.
Well, here's a look at the replay. You can see that distinctive blue jersey for the rider-on jersey of Ollie Jones. And Mark O'Brien, Pat, he was at the back of the group. He wanted the burrito power-up again to catch them by surprise. He got a small gap. Then Vujasan, he went, and he looked almost home. And Jones, with the momentum, just got over the top of him to take the win ahead of his teammate. And then Zach Johnson in third place, followed by Gavin Dempster and then Jay Vine.
It was a strong performance, and tonight I think that was probably our most level front group. They were all so close to one another, and we see in simultaneous fashion those aero power-ups all being popped, but those who use it best win, and it was Jones and Vujasan again with a strong 1-2.
Let's take a look at the results in just a moment as Mark O'Brien again has entertained us. Here is confirmation of Ollie Jones getting the nod by 0.2 of a second ahead of his teammate Lionel Vujasan. It was then Zach Johnson. I haven't seen Zach outside the top three in a race for, I can't remember, Pat. I'm losing count. I need the calendar. It's 2020. We're all losing count. It was then Dempster in fourth place, followed by Vine, Cutler, O'Brien, Sutton, West. And I'm pleased to see the Swede rounding out the top 10. It was Brandland bringing home part of the next group in 10th place. A good result, Pat.
Yeah, a great result and a great race, Matt, because it had so many parts to it tonight. The split came early. Then the chase group looked like it had no chance. They came back. Sutton was part of that. So was Brunland. And they then have split again with the sheer ferocity of the attack from Jay Vine over the final King of the Mountain. It looked like he could potentially go down and take out the win, but such a strong front group.
Well, importantly for the Canyon Esports team, they've extended their advantage in the race for the team general classification, and that's what really matters in the off-the-map tour. It sets the culture, doesn't it, Pat, that the main prize is not an individual prize, it is a team prize, and it tells us a lot about MAAP and the culture at that company. Canyon Esports for this race, they've collected big points ahead of the indoor specialists and then St Kilda Cycling Club. So what we do know in terms of the overall standings, Pat, they have further extended their lead.
Yeah, well, there seems to be no love lost between Vujasan and Jones, however, who keep line diving each other for the victory. We create a little story on the sidelines there, Matt, but there's a huge gap, isn't it? They are head and shoulders above the rest, but such a even race after that as we look down those leaderboard points.
I'm really looking forward to the final race on Monday, race number 4, and seeing the battle again between Ollie Jones and Lionel Vujasan. It's been entertaining to see those two go head-to-head. And you say no love lost, but they do get along really well. But when you're the strongest and you're out in front, as we take another look at the replay in the sprint between those two, they had the race sewn up. So battle it out between yourselves.
Oh, yes, there's no problem with that, especially when you finish first and second. Very different situation if you try and come over your teammate and then you lose to someone else by giving them a lead out. But I've loved watching their aggressive racing nature as they come over the top there. It's Ollie Jones in the ride-on jersey. And as we said, you can vote for people on the Zwift Companion app. Give them a ride-on. The rider with the most ride-ons at the end of today's race will start the next race on Monday with that jersey equipped. So it's a lovely jersey too, those MAAP jerseys.
Well, here's a look at the points tally, and it is a huge lead for Canyon Esports. Indoor specialists, Pat, they've separated themselves a little bit now from St Kilda Cycling Club in second position. So it was a good day for the indoor specialists.
Yes, and then very tight there for Team Aussie Hump Day riders, also Sydney CC and St Kilda Cycling Club. So all to fight for on Monday's final stage 4 of the Off the Map Tour.
Well, Pat, I'm looking forward to seeing you on Monday for the final race in the men's event for the Off the Map Tour.
Well, I look forward to it too. All to fight for, as I said, and let's hope maybe someone different takes out the win.
We'll find out on Monday. Next up, we have the women's race, and they are doing the Magnificent 8. And this is a course that is relatively flat. So who better to take a look at that course than one of the greatest sprinters of his generation, Robbie McEwen. He's a 3-time green jersey wearer. Have a look at his backdrop. He's got his jerseys and so on. But take a look out for number 21, and I'll tell you about it a little bit later on. Here's Robbie.
This is a flat stage for the sprinters, and that's why I'm here. Sprinters, they may be thinking, it is your day. This is the day I'm going to win it in a bunch sprint, but don't get complacent and sit at the back, because anybody who doesn't pack a sprint, they'll be looking at those sprint points to go on the attack. So I'm just on a precursor to the climb as I come into the Italian village. For strong riders, they'll be using this to already take a little bit of the sting out of the sprinter's legs. There's the red bridge. That is the signal that the climb is about to start. It's 2.4 kilometres, steeper section, 8%. It's on those steeper sections that the good climbers can do the damage. My tactic would be just sit back in the bunch initially, let the attackers, with a rush of blood to the head, let them try and get away early on, waste their energy. Can really feel it now. There's the line right in front. The climbers, they will need to do the damage early. Sprinters who can hang on, there are a good chance of picking up points here. Nice flat section through the desert. This is where I will be sitting in, conserving energy. So we're only a few kilometres from the next intermediate sprint at Rock Arch. We're going to see if we can pick up a few points here. Maybe not go too hard. Have a look behind. A couple of climbers having a go. They're not getting past. I started my sprint too early. I think I may have blown the budget. 8 kilometres to go. Still rolling through the desert. The road is nice and flat. No major corners, no big hills. So it's a great time to recover. But you can't afford to get too far back. If there's big attacks on the first lap, you can find yourself out the back with a very long and hard chase. And even if you do get back, you're very unlikely to have anything left in the tank to sprint. Just outside 5 kilometres to go. This is a really fast section of the course. Into the last 2.5 kilometres, this is where the pace will be really picking up. There's a series of 3 underground tunnels and then a short rise that brings you onto Ocean Boulevard. That's where you want to open the register and take all the cash out. 200 to go. There's the arch. So that was the Mag 8 ride. 2 laps, 57 kilometres, loads of points on offer. And of course, the big sprint finish. I think I'm going to take a week off to recover.
Well, I'm now joined by Hannah Walker. And Hannah, a lot of people have a trophy cabinet. Robbie has a room.
That's certainly something to aspire to, isn't it? And it's very admirable, great to look at, and very aspiring when racing or riding on Zwift, isn't it?
Yeah, that number 21 that I referred to at the start that was just behind Robbie, that was Marco Pantani's number, one of the numbers that he wore throughout the 1998 Tour de France that Marco Pantani won. We saw some great racing last week, Hannah, on Friday in the women's race. So to set the scene before we get started in race number 3 in the Off the Map Tour for the women, let's take a look back at what happened on Friday. Lou Bates applying plenty of pressure.
It was hard, the whole thing I found quite hard. Yeah, it's a pretty tough course. It was kind of fun in a horrible, painful way.
Looking at the body language of Lou Bates, she's looking very good.
What can we expect for the next 2 stages?
It would be nice to kind of keep going up the podium, but I think it's going to be a very tough call. There are a lot of really strong girls out there.
Bates is chasing along with Berger, but the advantage, it's now into double figures. 1 kilometre to go for Godby.
Stage victory in the Off the Map Tour. Vision E-Racing continuing in that fantastic form. You must be delighted with today's race. What can we expect in the final 2 stages?
I'll wake up early, I'll caffeinate, and I'm gonna come back and honestly just look forward to having fun. It is fun. You know, as much as you're hurting, it's always fun.
The Vision E-Racing team have further extended their lead in the Off the Map Tour 4-race series as Jackie Godby goes out the winner. Hannah, you warned me that Jackie was going to be strong. Did you think she would be that strong to win solo in race number 2?
I think it surprised me, and I think she surprised herself. But one thing I think's for sure is that team of Vision E-Racing have really found the recipe to success.
And you can see that in the leaderboard as we see Vision E-Racing. They are at the top of the table with a commanding lead. It's Sydney CC who are the next best, followed then, well, locked together, in fact, Sydney CC and the St Kilda Cycling Club, both together on 104 points. Next best is Team Saris, followed then by 3R3. The team of Lou Bates, who I think can be a real contender tonight. The avatar that you can see spinning around, that is the avatar with the leader's jersey and that distinctive MAAP kit. And Hannah, when it's important in cycling, the kit's got to look good, and that does.
Yeah, it certainly does. It's look good, feel good, isn't it? And MAAP are doing a tremendous job on these jerseys. And yeah, I think Vision E-Racing will be wearing that on their shoulders with pride.
So let's take a look at the format. Robbie's taken us through the course. So let's digest some of the numbers. The circuit, they do 2 laps of the Magnificent 8. It's 57.2 kilometres and just 262 metres worth of climbing. That's why Robbie chose to do the recon on this course, Hannah.
Yeah, of course he did. As you know, this really is going to be one for the sprinters. Not only that, riders are going to have to think about what bike are they going to select from their garage on Zwift. You know, what wheels are they going to put in? Everything today is about being aero.
The hilly Queen of the Mountains first to collect points, then the Rocky Arch sprint, and then, of course, the finish. The power-ups. I think the most important power-up today, Hannah, will be the aero power-up for a sprint finish.
Yeah, it certainly will. We've only got one significant climb today, the hilly KOM reverse. So they'll be wanting the lightweight to power up for that, but it's going to be all about the aero power up.
Let's take a look at some of the riders to watch, and I'm going to get biased early and focus on Sydney CC and Chelsea Holmes. And I'm going to ask you a simple question. Was I right?
I think you're right. I mean, I've been keeping a close watch on her since, you mentioned her at the start of the Off the Map Tour, and she's been, very, very impressive. And I think today's stage and today's route is going to suit her down to the ground.
We've got a couple of riders in here that have got triathlon background. Lizzie Duncombe from Vision E-Racing. Well, we know anybody from that team's going to be near the front. And Laura Luxford from the St Kilda Cycling Club. They need points in that battle really for, second and third place.
Yeah, they certainly do. And I think, pick up as many points in the intermediate sprints, be consistent and try and score big at the finish. I think St Kilda Cycling Club will be very strong on today's course.
And we've got the R3R ladies team, which is Deb Stockley that we're focusing on here. Hopefully she can be a supporting player for Lou Bates, who I think is a real chance on this course. And the ever-experienced Vicky Whitelaw from Team Saris. She's always a rider that we see up near the front. The race, it's already underway, Hannah. Let's get down to the action. In the third race, the Off the Map Tour, it's the women's race. It's pretty quick, not surprisingly. And guess who's up near the front? Jackie Godby.
Yeah, Jackie Godby of Vision E-Racing obviously took the win on Monday's stage in emphatic style. But, I'm just looking at Vision E-Racing, and I just think the way that they've come together as a team, the unity, they really are impeccable. And I think they really are riding on that confidence from the first two stages. Obviously, Alice Lethbridge taking out stage one.
Well, the pace has been really hot at the start because this is quite a small group. You can see the jersey that Godby is wearing. It's not a normal team jersey. She's wearing the MAAP Leaders jersey. Vision E-Racing, they've been performing so strongly, super consistent with lots of riders always up in this front group.
Yeah, they certainly are, and I think that's the key for the team and all the teams. Try and get strength in numbers up towards the front, and it's actually whittled down, smaller than I thought it would. It must have been very, very fast pace from the first 20 kilometers.
Way smaller than I anticipated. I was expecting that we'd see most of the race still together, but it just shows how aggressive the racing has been. This is more than 50 kilometres. It's the longest of the four races. They're just inside the 35 kilometre to go mark, and we're already down to a pretty select group. Good to see the distinctive colours of R3R coming up towards the front. That's the team of Lou Bates, and she's a rider. I know you know her well, Hannah. I haven't seen a lot of Lou Bates, a little bit of her, but geez, I've been impressed with what I've seen in this series.
Yeah, Lou Bates really thrives on the climbs, but we have seen her, in the intermediate sprints in these races, really dominating. As we get a replay of the start of today's race, just so you can get a sense of how fast the start really was. Bree Wilson making the moves towards the front.
And you could see it was a super quick start. Some arrows being used at the beginning, and we're seeing loads of power-ups being used for the first of the intermediate sprints, and it was Jackie Godby who collected the points on that occasion. So she's picked up exactly where she left off, right at the front in the thick of the action, and gaining more points for Vision E-Racing.
Yeah, those all important points towards Vision E-Racing. Jackie Godby actually, racing is very, very early in the morning over in the US, so she gets up around 3 in the morning, and it's how she adapts as well to the time zone and being able to race so early in the morning. But obviously not affecting the way she is racing and performing. As we can see, the team points on the left-hand side. Vision E-Racing still in the lead.
But importantly, St Kilda Cycling Club and Sydney CC, who are in a really tight battle for the overall standings in the minor placings behind Vision E-Racing, once again, they're separated by only 1 point. St Kilda collecting the 7 points, Sydney CC collecting 6 points. So this is going to be a Zwift Power Watts wrestle all the way down to the finish line on Monday.
Yeah, certainly is. We're having a great little battle, aren't we, between Sydney CC and St Kilda Cycling Club for those points. And it is tight. Every single point counts, with them both being on 104 points in the team classification. It means, all riders have got to, obviously give it their best as they would, but just, can't just rest on your laurels. Try and score in as many intermediate sprints and as much as at the end as possible.
The Aussie Hump Day ride, the Purple Armada, they're always well represented in the race for the Ride On jersey. More on that in a moment. Next up is the I Race Like a Girl, and a team that we've seen a little bit of towards the front. I'd like to see more of them on this course. It could be one that suits them. R3R ladies, they've only got 3, but they've got Lou Bates, and they're in with a chance when you've got Lou Bates in the team, Hannah.
Yeah, you certainly are. And Deb Stockley, a rider from that team who's highlighted for today. St Kilda Cycling Club, the team that we've been having a close eye on. Justine Barrow, Bree Wilson, Laura Luxford and Annabelle Luxford. Very, very strong team indeed. And a team that you and a club that you know very, very well, Matt.
It is Sydney CC. This is the team of Bree Vine, and Sarah Gigante is back. She missed Friday. She's back in, she missed Friday. She's back on this occasion. So good to see her in the mix once again. Missed Monday, I should say. I'm getting my days mixed up.
It is 2020. The mind's all over the place, isn't it? Team Fearless having 4 riders with Fiona Schroeder, Ellen Owen and Claire Good. Claire James here as well. So a very mixed representation, a very global team from Team Fearless, and a real standout jersey as well.
It is. Next up is Team Saris, and this is a team with Anna Russell is in this team. I'm going to get you to tell us more about her shortly. Vicky Whitelaw is a rider that we often feature because she's so strong and so consistent and always up towards the front of the race.
Team Swedish
Swifters. They were good in the men's. Can the women do the same? And then we have Team Turbo, who we haven't seen a lot of towards the front, but there's no time like the present. As once again, as we turn our attention to the race, we can see Jackie Godby is up towards the front of the race. Velocity Vixen, a team with just 3 riders. Bronwyn McGregor has been good from that team, Hannah.
Yeah, she's been very good. A team we've not seen too much towards the front, but Bronwyn having a fantastic off-the-map tour so far. And Vision E-Racing, this is the team of the moment. They really have found that unity. They're really dominating this series. Lizzie Duncombe, Kerry Bradley, Alice Lethbridge. We have Jackie Godby, the rider who took out to stage 2 on Monday, and also Ellen Tranquino.
And this is our ride-on jersey, Fran Bambust from the Aussie Hump Day Ride team. She's got the women's ride-on jersey. She has more than double the ride-ons of Ollie Jones in the men's event. That tells me about the spirit of the community for the Aussie Hump Day Ride crew.
Yeah, well, that's a really phenomenal stat, isn't it? And as you say, the community within Zwift, it is phenomenal, backing their favourite riders. And you too can, jump on board, give your favourite riders a ride on, jump onto the Zwift companion app and give the riders that you think really deserve that ride-on jersey. It'd be great to see a different rider on Monday in this wonderful blue MAAP jersey. Really is stand out. I really like the design, actually, Matt.
I'm not sure Fran agrees with you, but I think that it might be a different rider. And if it is, it could be somebody else from the Aussie Hump Day Ride team. This is the front of the race. You can see the MAAP jersey with the leaders. And just going back a moment, Hannah, to my getting the days wrong. You know, when you're a kid and you're on school holidays and there's no structure to your week, or even as an adult when you're on holiday from not going to work Monday to Friday and you can't remember what day it is. We're in lockdown in Melbourne at the moment, as we see Bree Vine, who's in lockdown near the front of the race. And our kids are doing homeschooling, and you completely lose track of the actual day of the week because there's not that normal structure with school drop-off and pick-up and normal going to the office arrangements. It's bizarre.
Yeah, it really messes with your mind a little bit, and every day just rolls into one, doesn't it?
Well, it has been for me. Anna Russell, who we saw her name pop up on the screen just moments ago from Team Saris, she's been really strong, really impressive in this series. Yet another Kiwi showing herself to be very good on Zwift.
Yeah, Anna Russell having a fantastic tour so far. The 37-year-old, she's 38 next month, and she's level 36 on Zwift, so she's very, very experienced on this platform. We can just see a picture in picture here, looking very, very comfortable indeed, just keeping the revs very high, very low heart rate as well, but just check the speed out as well, 48 kilometers per hour. Anna, a very strong triathlete. Cycling's actually her second best discipline. She's more towards the running side, but nonetheless, she's certainly been very impressive throughout this off-the-map tour. She finished 4th in the amateur Kona in her age group back in 2012, so certainly shows the caliber of Anna Russell, the Australian rider, who we're just seeing in her
we'll have her.
cave.
She's a Kiwi, Hannah, but we'll have her. She's that good.
You're certainly right.
Like a lot of things from New Zealand, us Australians, we seem to claim them when they're really good. And Anna Russell might classify as one of those. Coming up towards the end of the first lap, and it's up towards the front. Again, Duncombe is there. Lou Bates is towards the head of the race. For a New Zealander, she is riding it's a little bit after 10 o'clock in the evening. She's got 2 young kids. I'm sure they're already off to bed. And if they are, it's somebody else. If they're not, I should say, it's somebody else's responsibility.
Yeah, certainly should. I think I was, getting my flags mixed up. But she's referred to as Mrs. Zwift for New Zealand throughout her community role in triathlon New Zealand. So, just shows she's only been on Zwift just over a little bit over a year now. And just shows that, her dominance and how what she's brought to the community over in New Zealand.
This is Lou Bates, who we're now riding with. You've had a chance to talk to her after a couple of the races, and each time you've spoken to her, she sounded bubbly, confident, and happy.
Yeah, she certainly is. And I think, she's really riding on a high. She is suited more to the climbs, but she's a rider who can really put everyone in the hurt locker. We've seen her get on the podium on Monday. She was thrilled about that, riding from her pain cave in Nottingham in the UK. And great to see Sarah Gigante back for stage 3, Matt. Brilliant. She's having a great ride with Sydney CC.
She did a really good post just recently. I think it was earlier on today, or perhaps it was yesterday. Sarah Gigante. In Melbourne, we're only allowed to travel 5 kilometres from home and 1 hour outside of the house for exercise. So she was planning a ride outdoors. So she'd mapped out exactly where she needed to go to do intervals up a few hills, but she wanted to make the most of that 1 hour. So she did the warm-up indoors on Zwift before going outdoors to enjoy that moment of fresh air. It was classic professional coordination by Sarah Gigante. And now we get to watch her race.
Yeah, well, that's certainly making the best of the situation, isn't it? And, making the best of your training. And I just think if she's going out doing those intervals, shows, she's racing into good form as well. We saw her performing very, very well in the virtual Tour de France just a few months ago. She's back here with Sydney CC. Sarah Gigante, really an impressive prospect coming through the Australian cycling system, the current individual time trial champion and former road race champion at just such a young age as well. So
yeah, she won the time trial this year. She won the road race the year before. And this year when she won the individual time trial, a rider of the caliber of Amanda Spratt finished in 4th position. That's how good the ride was from Sarah Gigante. In through the volcano, and Chelsea Holmes is at the front. We've spoken about heart rates and people with low heart rates. She is running a turbo. She runs at a high heart rate all the time.
Yeah, this is very, very high. And, we've said before, we don't know what these riders' max heart rate is. But certainly for me, that would be near my max. I'd be riding into the red zone. But Chelsea Holmes looking very, very comfortable indeed, keeping a really nice RPM as well at 85, anywhere between 80 to 95 to 100 RPM really is optimum going through this volcano now. And Chelsea Holmes, I think another very, very exciting prospect from Australian cycling.
Last time I saw a heart rate at 191 beats per minute. The main conversation around technology was the Y2K bug. It was a long way from anything to do with social media, but she is still holding on in this group. I'm not sure she was born at that time. I don't think she was actually. She was born around about 2003 or so. She's riding well. Big prospect for the future. Down to 26 kilometres to go. The group has thinned out significantly, as we mentioned before, right from the very start. I feel, Hannah, as if we're in a bit of a holding pattern at the moment in the race, that they've just settled, content, and then the race will pick up again shortly.
Yeah, I feel like there was, a very, very fast start, a big influx of power and speed over the Queen of the Mountain, and it shelled some of those sprinters out. So it's all the riders, the names that we're familiar with throughout this off-the-map tour. A lot of strong riders who have a great strength and endurance, who are able to go for a long one. A lot of great time trialists. So really putting the power down and the pressure, but the speed hasn't dropped at all. You can just see 45 kilometers per hour. Lizzie Duncombe, one of those riders who this summer actually has gone from amateur to triathlon to professional. And she's a rider who's got a fabulous endurance. However, she was very, very surprised about her sprint on stage 1. Could today be the day that she masters that sprint and takes a stage victory again for Vision E Racing?
Well, based on what you just said about her endurance, she'll like the fact that this is the longest of the courses. She now works her way to the front. We saw in the profile on Alex West earlier on in the men's race, he said he likes to get through these races with the lowest watts per kilo. We saw in the opening race with Sarah Gigante, she had the highest watts per kilo or just about, yet she didn't get the timing right and she missed the split and she ended up finishing just outside the top 5. It shows how important using your power at the right time really is on this format.
Yeah, I mean, I think, it's just about conserving as much energy as possible, especially on this flat section. You want to be sitting around, 10th to 15th position, making the most of the draft effect on Zwift, just as you would in real life. Don't do too much work at the front of the race. Save as much energy, and in turn, you can just look at the numbers of Lizzie Duncombe, just only at the low 200 watts, in the just over 1 watt per kilogram, keeping a nice revs per minute as well, and the heart rate is extremely low. This is one of the lowest heart rates we've seen of all the riders that have come up with the data. 146 beats per minute. Now that is really impressive.
She is cruising. On the topic of trying to save energy, do you find yourself when you're riding on Zwift and you're in a bunch and your avatar goes to the outside of the group, you're trying to shift across to the center and get right into the middle?
Yeah, I'm trying to turn my handlebars and say, get into the middle, make the most of it, make the most of this draft, and get onto the wheels and get into, as if you'd be sucked along by the front of the peloton. But you can just see now, it's Lethbridge towards the front as well, Luxford up there.
Banerjee is now riding at the front of the group, as we're still seeing the numbers from Lizzie Duncombe. The watts are starting to, they were starting to pick up a moment ago. The heart rate is joining them as well, as she's up through the 150 mark into the little village that Robbie McEwen spoke about in his preview of this course. I think he enjoyed sprinting against a fictitious mountain climber, Robbie McEwen. He beat them anyway. He doesn't need to make them up.
Yeah, exactly. He beated all the opposition, didn't he? And very quite easily. Holmes towards the front now, and Holmes, really is a great prospect. One that I think I'll be watching today for the sprint. Only 19 years of age. She was 19th in the individual time trial at the Australian Nationals earlier on this year.
And also riding towards the front, Justine Barrow. We've seen her on the hillier courses, which I thought would have suited her, but she hasn't missed a beat today on this flat, fast course. She's got herself in this lead group. It'd be intriguing to see what sort of cadence she's pedaling at, Hannah, whether it's any higher than usual, and it is.
Yeah,
it's
right
up
on
at the
time.
mid-70s.
Yeah, right
Perfect.
on time. That's much higher than what we've been seeing on the more hilly courses. 80 revs per minute, just really putting everything through the pedals here. Justine Barrow's got really a distinct style of riding. But this is a very high cadence for Justine Barrow. Maybe she's trying to take a different approach to today's stage.
Just over a kilometre before the start of the KOM. I love the bookcase in the background for Justine Barrow. And that sort of cadence, she's now up towards the 90 mark, which I like. But when she's down around that 80 mark, I don't know about you, Hannah, but when I'm riding on Zwift and I'm down around that 80 mark, I feel as if the kicker is going to grind to a halt.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like, I just can't shift the gear over. I don't know if that's just from, racing and riding. And my style of riding, I like to keep quite a high cadence. But Justine Barrow, obviously works for her today, taking a different approach.
She's about to hit the KOM, and this is the part of the course that she will like. We might see those revs per minute drop a little bit, the watts go up, the heart rate go up, and the pressure on everybody else start to be felt. Now we see coming through to the front the colours of the series leaders. It's the distinctive MAAP jersey for the Vision E Racing team, and it was the winner of the previous race, the winner of race number 2, Jackie Godby, coming up towards the front, and she was phenomenal in race number 2 to ride off the front solo in the way she did. That had nothing to do with tactics. That was pure strength.
Yeah, it certainly was, and I think she's learned so much over the last few months racing on Zwift. As I said before, it's very, very early over in the US, racing at around 4:30 a.m. in the morning. So obviously that doesn't affect her performance, but it's Laura Luxford now who starts to open up the gap. Brie Vine as well, and it's left to Jackie Godby just over a second behind to close this gap.
Well, Laura Luxford, she's punched out some really big numbers. She got up to almost 8 watts per kilo to create this gap. Onto the climb now. It's a climb that she might enjoy. It's not super steep. It's really benefiting that big horsepower. Jackie Godby has managed to get across pretty quickly. Good to see Brie Vine up towards the front. Lou Bates is there. She's been so reliable in this series, Lou Bates.
Yeah, she's been very reliable, and she's got Deb Stockley for company on the team today. But Lou Bates, this type of climb and with this gradient, won't affect her at all. And I think, again, after that slight incline of around 7%, we have shelled a few more riders from this front group. So a few riders finding themselves in difficulty. But one rider who's not finding this difficult is Anna Russell, the Kiwi who we mentioned just a few moments ago.
The Queen of Zwift in New Zealand. She is Mrs. Zwift herself, the mother of 2, and this is her second best leg when it comes to triathlon. Do not go for a run with Anna Russell if this is the way she rides a bike. It's impressive by the Kiwi. Godby again showing herself at the front. This KOM or QOM, the Queen of the Mountains, has split the field. Gradient's still only 3 or 4%, but the power output is huge.
Yeah, this is massive, isn't it? Only around 9 riders in this front group now. And Vision E-Racing, again, having strength in numbers. Lethbridge in this group, Duncombe, Godby, and Lethbridge, I found a phenomenal time trialer. She's a record holder over in Great Britain for the 100 miles and the 12-hour record. And she was our stage 1 winner. But it's Lethbridge towards the front now.
And once again, St Kilda, they've managed to get 2 riders in this group. They've got Lux, who's managed to make this group. Brie Wilson is also in this group. And it looks as if Justine Barrow has missed the split.
Yeah, this is very surprising at Justine Barrow. Looking at how comfortable she looked just before when we saw her in the picture-in-picture. And obviously the pace as we ramped up the gradient to 7-8%, just couldn't compete with the climbing and the speed that we're going up here. Be interesting to get a speed that we are going at on this climb. 19.9 kilometers to go.
The chasers are not too far behind. They are closing in. It got out to a little over 5 seconds, but that group is working really well together, and leading the chase is Chelsea Holmes.
Yeah, Chelsea Holmes very keen to get back on terms with this front group as we crest the Queen of the Mountain now. That's Brie Wilson. Looks like she took the points there with Brie Vine, Jackie Godby following there. But they're closing the gap here. Chelsea Holmes really keen to get a result in this off-the-map tour. She's been there or thereabouts.
That's a good confidence booster for Brie Vine. To get second place, it was Brie Wilson who went over the top first. Godby in third position. Luxford was the next best. It was then Lethbridge. But Brie Vine has just been off the mark in this series, whereas in the other events that I've seen her race that have been more of an Australian-focused series, this one's a bit more international. She's been one of the key players. She's been winning or thereabouts. The first 2 races, she wasn't quite there. Race 3, she's right in the mix and she might be a chance. Look out, race number 4 on Monday.
Yeah, with Brie Vine, she's had many wins virtually in the NRS and the SRAM Send It series. So we know that she's quite capable of getting on the podium or winning on this platform. But as you say, I think really finding her feet now into stage 3. And I think after seeing her other half, Jay Vine, racing just previously, the pair really motivating each other.
Well, there's a look at the points that have been gained, and yet again, it's Vision E Racing who have collected more points than anybody else, so they've further extended their overall lead, gained another 3 points on St Kilda Cycling Club, 7 points to the better of Sydney CC. There's Brevine with coach, husband, cyclist extraordinaire, Jay Vine, over the shoulder, super sports director.
Yeah, it's great having that support, isn't it? And, it's giving them the tips, just giving you some encouragement and, on hand to give you some fluid or hydration if you need it. But, great support from coach and husband, Jay Vine. After straight off the bike, warmed down, straight in to help his wife, Bree. Great sportsmanship.
He's doing his best not to show any emotion. Doing a pretty good job of it, but so too is Bree. She's got herself in the front. This is the best performance we've seen from her in the Off the Map Tour. Race at number 3 of 4. Good to see Laura Luxford up towards the front for the St Kilda Cycling Club. Lou Bates, she has not missed a beat throughout this series. She's also in the mix once again. Lizzie Lethbridge, she's been very good as well, Hannah.
Yeah, she has. Now, just taking a look at Lou Bates. She's sitting there or thereabouts, never doing a turn on the front, not taking the brunt of the wind in her face, the virtual wind in her face, and just sitting comfortably, making the most of the draft. Only 9 riders in this front group now, and just looking at the chasing group, gone down to 16 seconds now. So Justine Barrow leading that chase, and it looks like it could be all over for that chasing group unless they start to really get themselves together. This will be, the win will come from this front group of 9.
I thought the chase group was going to get back on. As they went over the King of the Mountains point, or the Queen of the Mountains, I should say, they were within 4 seconds. And I thought just maybe this leading group of 9 riders, that might have been the moment where they backed it off ever so slightly, but that has not been the case at all. They've really stayed on the pedals and maintained the pressure.
Well, there's still time for the front group of 9 to start, playing around, taking a look at each other. With the 3 riders from Vision E Racing, it's on their onus to do the work really and pursue the front of the group. And the likes of Lou Bates and Anna Russell can sit nicely. They'll be very happy with the composition in this front group. What has this pack got?
They haven't completely fallen away. They're still at just on 17 seconds or so. And in the men's race, Hannah, I put the commentator's curse on myself. I thought the chase group was gone for all money. Moments later, the chase group is back on. It's anybody's to win.
Yeah, it certainly is, and just over 16 kilometres left of racing. It's not over until we cross that finish line. Still remaining at 15 seconds. Chelsea Holmes, the rider, doing the work again at the front. Brevine sitting nicely at the front of the race, the back of this pack.
And here is the lead group. Brevine, as Hannah Walker just mentioned. Laura Luxford in this group. Alice Lethbridge, who's been good in the series. Lizzie Duncombe, likewise good in the series for Vision E Racing. Lou Bates from R3R. She's been close to collecting the win, but not quite. Anna Russell is here. Mrs. Zwift of New Zealand. She's got herself up towards the front, the mother of 2. Bree Wilson from the St Kilda Cycling Club. She's been so consistent. And the winner of the previous race, race number 2, Jackie Godby, is also in this leading group of 9. And so too, Mason is in this leading group also, which is one of the names. I can't remember seeing Polly Mason in the front in either of the previous races. So a good result from her of Team Saris.
Yeah, very good result for Mason, making it into this front group. Interesting as well with Lou Bates. She was 4th on stage 1, 3rd on stage 2. Could we be going in a pattern here? 2nd today, and what about 1st on Monday for the final stage? But I think Bates very, very motivated to try and get a result for R3R. The rider who's just moved towards the front of this race with the light blue, sky blue shoulders and the red on her back.
Well, I'm not normally a betting person, Hannah, but if Lou Bates does finish second today on that pattern that you've just laid out, I'll have a little wager with you that she wins race number 4.
Okay, we've got a deal.
Excellent. Here is the lead group. The United States, Great Britain and Australia represented in this leading group. Brie Wilson has been riding strongly, so too Laura Luxford for the St Kilda Cycling Club. And lots of support, not surprisingly, for the Aussie Hump Day Ride team. They have been dominating in both the men's and the women's race, the ride-on jersey. And in the women's race, it was double the points of ride-ons by comparison to the leader of that classification in the men's race.
Yeah, Fran Bambus with that jersey, ride-on jersey on her shoulders for the Aussie Hump Day riders. And yeah, it's a really impressive start. Get onto the Zwift Companion app. Give your favourite riders, the riders who you think really deserve a ride-on. And we could see a change in shoulders of that jersey for the final race on Monday.
Just on 14 kilometres remaining. This is the longest of the races, but this 14 kilometres, it will go pretty quickly because it is such a fast circuit. The sprint is coming up, the all-important sprint, racing for points, as we see Lethbridge get the maximum points, Vine in second position, Godby it was in third place, followed by Wilson was the next best. So yet again, it is Vision E Racing collecting big points. And is that an attack going straight after the sprint? It looks like it might be. Bates perhaps going on the charge.
Well, look at this, taking them all by surprise. Big effort from Lethbridge through that sprint, and Bates not leaving it to anything. She wants to surprise those riders after they've made a huge effort and try and split this group up. We get a confirmation of the sprint points on the left-hand side, but it's all status quo now. Everything is back together with these 9 riders. Again, Vision E Racing extending their lead in this team classification. Godby towards the front, Lethbridge as well. It's a great sprint there and timing from Lethbridge.
And she got the points ahead of Vine, Godby, Russell, and then it was Wilson in 5th position. So I thought we were going to see a big attack post that. Vision E Racing, they're now 25 points gained by comparison to St Kilda, 15. Sydney CC, 14. So St Kilda, the Melbourne-based team, Sydney CC, obviously the Sydney-based team, those two, they're locked in a real duel on this stage and in the overall series. That's quite the battle.
Yeah, it is, and you know, big rivals, and you know, it's in these intermediate sprints, each team trying to gain as many points as possible, but the main score tally will come from the finish line. So these riders really want to save as much energy as possible for the finish. 25 points on offer for the winner. Points going down to the first 22 riders across the line. So even the riders not in this first 9 and from those represented teams want to try and make sure that they score as many points as possible in the chasing groups and the chasing pelotons, trying to add more to the tally. As you said, it's very, very close. So we came into today's stage with 104 points apiece for St Kilda Cycling Club and Sydney CC. Vision E Racing almost running away with the team classification with 178 coming into today.
Well, then that battle between St Kilda and Sydney CC, whatever happens in the second group, Hannah, becomes really important to try and separate those two teams going into the final race.
Yeah, it certainly will, and I think, you know, all these riders and within the teams, they'll be on a form of communication to each other, talking throughout the race, just you know, talking about the tactics as well in race. I mean, it's important to come into the race with a tactic, but of course things change as the race goes on, and important to make sure you know what to do going into the finish. You might have a sports director or a rider who's you know, very experienced within your team, giving you some tips. The likes of Vicky Whitelaw, I know she does that for her team of Team Saris.
As we take a look at the gap between the leaders and the chasing group, it's out to 31 seconds. Lizzie Duncombe is the rider that we're focusing on the left. Stephanie Sidlick on the right-hand side of the screen. And the power output that's been applied to the left shows that that gap is not coming down anytime soon, Hannah.
No, and you can look at the kilometres per hour as well. When the front group is travelling at 41 kilometres per hour and the chasing group at 39, the time gap is only going to go out. It's going to take something special now for this chasing group with the likes of Stephanie Sidlick and Chelsea Holmes, Kathleen Collin in that chasing group. It's going to take something special for them to get back to the front now.
Yeah, so it's continuing to grow out to 34 seconds. Sidlick on the right-hand side of the screen for the chasing group, Duncombe on the left for the leading group. 9 riders in that lead group, but importantly, there are points available in that second group, and a few of the St Kilda jerseys in the second group, so that will be important for them to try and gain some points on Sydney CC in their battle for second position behind Vision E Racing, who once again are really well represented in the leading group.
Yeah, very well represented with Duncombe, Lethbridge, Godby as well. So they'll be picking up a lot of points with 25 on offer for the first across the line. Lethbridge could go for a long one. She's an exceptional time trialist and could set the team up very, very nicely going for a long one and leave the sprint down to Duncombe and Godby.
I agree with a couple of comments that have just been posted on Zwift Live. But one of them, I'm not sure how to pronounce the first name, but the second name is Davies, has just posted, just got off the floor after the men's race. This course looks far more pleasant. It does look a lot more pleasant, but the final race, stage 4, is going to be quite difficult. And then Kevin Rundle has said, can't see the chase group getting back. Lead group is super strong. I tend to agree with Calvin on that one also.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's not to be misjudged, though, on this course. Very, very high pace from the start, wasn't it? So to even make it into this front group really was a challenge in itself. We saw very, very high speed at the front. However, just look at this. The chasing group have picked up the pace now, 45 kilometres per hour. Meanwhile, the front group only at around 41, so could this be the moment with 9 kilometres remaining that the chasing group start to close that gap? Is still at 34 seconds to the leaders.
10 kilometres remaining. Calvin, welcome to the nervous moment of being a commentator when you stick your neck out and make a prediction. I still think Calvin might be right. The odds are stacked against that chasing group of being able to close it down. Inside the final 10Ks, the lead group still holding on to an advantage of a smidgen over 30 seconds. They're not backing off in that front group. There's no real sitting up and riders trying to just save energy, because if they did at this point, it would be a case of getting dropped and ending back in the second group anyway.
Yeah, exactly. I think, the pace is still on at the front of this group. Brie Vine sitting very, very nicely at the back of the front group, saving as much energy as possible. You can just see her coming into your picture with that Sydney CC kit on her shoulders.
Well, the gap is heading back into the right direction for the leading group. Lizzie Duncombe punching out around about 200 watts, a little over 200 watts as she got to the front. She now gets the front. She backs off a fraction and looking to try and get herself back into the slipstream. The watts pick up to get into the slipstream and then try and save that energy. But her heart rate is looking really, really composed. And Hannah, I like her cadence up around the mid-90s, 95, 96 revs per minute. She's well on top of the gear.
Yeah, well on top of the gear, looking very comfortable. And as you said, her heart rate exceptionally low in comparison to what we've seen from some other riders who were, in the high 180s beats per minute. Duncombe, the rider who surprised us on stage 1 on that finish. And she was on the podium for her team, Vision E Racing, and she, was a rider who, she said she's got great power. She can hold that power for a very long time. She's not got great turn of speed. What can the team do today? What will be the tactic? Will one of them go a little bit early, force the other riders in this group, the likes of Lou Bates, Brie Vine, to chase? But it feels like the tension in the front group. You really could cut it with a knife. Meanwhile, the chasing group brought that gap down to 31 seconds, so only 3 seconds has been shaved off, with only coming into the closing stages of stage 3.
Almost at the 8 kilometre to go marker, And the leading group, they look to have this race in hand. 9 riders out in front. Lizzie Duncombe from Vision E Racing. That's a team that is extending their advantage in the battle for the overall series. Looking for the riders from Vision E Racing. They normally wear predominantly black jerseys, but they have the all-important in-game MAAP jersey as the leaders of this series. You can participate in the off-the-map tour. You can either ride the races or the mass participation rides as opposed to racing. There are 4 courses, 2 weeks to do it. They've already kicked off, so we're starting to run out of time. And once you've completed all 4 of the stages of the off-the-map tour, you unlock the opportunity to buy one of those jerseys in real life. No coming back surely, Hannah, for the Chase group.
No, we're looking at that gap now, 30 seconds with just under 8 kilometers, over 8 kilometers left of this race to go. Despite their efforts to try and close the gap, it's not looking very optimistic for the chasers. Lizzie Duncombe, on the other hand, looking great in this front group for Vision E Racing, and again, great cadence of 84 revs per minute and a relatively low watts as well.
A little over 50 kilometres having been covered. They've been racing for more than an hour and 10 minutes. That's longer than a lot of races on this format. I'm wondering what sort of an impact that will have. I'm sure with this type of duration, there'll be plenty of riders who will have a carbohydrate gel or something of that ilk alongside them to make sure that they stay on top of the nutrition.
Yeah, well, coming into the race, they will want to have been very well hydrated, have a great energy source, but throughout, as you said, taking in gels, more hydration, keeping the body optimal performance, and also having as many fans as possible, keeping the body temperature as low as possible. But after a while, with the sweat, perspiration, and the body temperature going up, it starts to affect your performance. Who is able to optimize their position in today's race?
I thought you were going to refer to as fans giving you the ride-ons to give you the encouragement to try and keep you going, because we need those as well. Those of you watching, pull out the phone, get on the Zwift companion, open the app, give your favourite rider a ride-on, because there's not only the leaders jersey, the MAAP leaders jersey, there's the ride-on leaders jersey that is also up for grabs, and that could be just about as important as anything else. At the moment, the women's ride-on jersey is worn by Fran Bamhurst from the Aussie Hump Day ride team, the Purple Armada, and she got double the points of Ollie Jones, who wore the ride-on jersey for the men's race. Back out with our leading group now, Hannah. There are the chasers. They're still at more than 40 seconds behind. This is Claire Good that we're now on board with. Lots of headbands in Zwift racing, in both the men's racing and the women's racing.
Yeah, I think it's important. Keep that sweat off your brow from going in your eyes. Keep the hair out of the face as well. There's nothing worse when I'm riding on Zwift, get the hair out of the way. Otherwise, it always makes me feel a little bit too hot, start to overheat on the back of my neck. Keep the face clear. They're good, looking very, very good for Team Fearless, the team with the extremely standout jersey, with that floral shoulders and the turquoise body. Good from Wales. Looking
quite a few Welsh riders represented in the series, Hannah. Seen that flag pop up a fair few times.
Yeah, a lot of riders from Wales on Zwift. And, likewise with Great Britain as a whole. It's a very, very popular platform to be racing on. And,
meanwhile, the leading group of 9 still holding on to a 36-second advantage on the chasing group. So there's not enough time now for that chasing group to be able to reel it back in. They started to look like they were making some progress, but it's going in the right direction for the leaders as they're down to almost the 5 kilometre to go mark. And here they are, Lizzie Duncombe once again at the front. That looks like the jersey of Lou Bates. She's at the head of this race. She's been pretty consistent. She's a reasonably good sprinter, Lou Bates. She's in the blue and red colours.
Yeah, we saw her on stage 1, didn't we? In the intermediate sprint, having a very, very good turn of speed. She won that intermediate sprint on the Mall in London. But being the only rider in this front group from her team R3R, it means that, she doesn't have to think about any teammates. She just thinks about what she wants to do as her tactic. How is she going to overcome 2 riders from St Kilda Cycling Club, 3 riders from Vision E Racing, 2 riders from Saris, and only the 1 rider from Sydney CC represented in this front group. So already, Matt, that St Kilda Cycling Club have the upper hand for those all-important points towards the team classification, which they will get on the finish line of today's stage.
Yeah, those 2 teams that you just mentioned, they started the 3rd stage locked together on equal points. Now for St Kilda CC having 2 riders in this group by comparison to Sydney CC having just the 1 rider in this group, it's a real opportunity for them to get a little bit of breathing space heading into the final round. Here's a look into the garage with Lou Bates. She's just getting organised at the 4 kilometre marker, anticipating a big sprint finish.
Oh, just looking at her position on the bike and the way she's posing her body, she's looking very, very comfortable indeed. Towards the back end of this group, you'll see all the other riders are invisible at the minute. That's not to power up, just we are focusing on Lou Bates at the moment. But a heart rate and power going hand in hand. She's looking very well within her limits.
When we first saw this with the other riders being made invisible to focus on that 1 rider, it caught me by surprise as being a power-up that they were getting it out of the way early, but you've absolutely nailed it, Hannah. It is just a chance for us to focus on Lou Bates. Brie Vine, meanwhile, she's also in this group and she's looking reasonably good. Lizzie Duncombe, we've seen a fair bit of her. Brie Wilson as well. A strong representation for Breeze in the leading group.
Yeah, it's very...
Brie Vine riding for the Sydney Cycling Club and Brie Wilson riding for the St Kilda Cycling Club. Brie Wilson for St Kilda, she spells it with 2 E's. Brie Vine with the 1 E. And as we speak, they both find themselves at the front. Will anybody launch a big attack and try and go solo, Hannah, and avoid the sprint finish?
Well, I think, looking at the strength in numbers from Vision E Racing, they really do have the numbers to be able to take a chance, go long. But Alice Lethbridge, the rider who I think might potentially go for that one. She is a record holder in Great Britain in time trialling, so has that ability and the power to sustain, a high 1-2 minute effort as well. I was looking at her numbers just earlier on. But likewise, St Kilda Cycling Club, do they want to chance anything, or do they just want to try and get a clean sweep towards the finish, try and pick up as many points as possible over Sydney Cycling Club? As you mentioned, Brie Vine, the only representative in this front group.
It's a big risk to go early. Using a power-up can be all important. We saw in race number 2, Mark O'Brien tried to use a power-up at about 1,200 metres to go to catch them by surprise and hope that it would open up enough of a gap and then be able to hold on. But I could almost feel his lactic acid coming through the screen as he blew up and was swamped near the finish line.
Yeah, well, we haven't seen many power-ups being used in this front group for a while, and it kind of says to me, do these riders have something they're holding back? Maybe they have the all-important aero power-up. For anyone who these riders in the front group who doesn't have the aero power up, maybe if they had the burrito, they could attack and make themselves undraftable, or even the invisibility power up to go for a sneaky one, take everyone by surprise. But,
this is the perfect moment, Hannah, to use the invisibility. This is the time where that power-up, if you had it, would come into its own as the lead group are down to the last 1,500 metres and they've really backed off the pace. Well, they had for the last kilometre or so, but perhaps now it's time for it to start building up, and it is starting to build up. We're seeing a few of the numbers go into the red. The tempo is increasing at the front.
Yeah, we just saw the red numbers of Lizzie Duncombe and Lou Bates just turned to red, and Lou Bates goes off the front just momentarily. Wants to move up from the back of the peloton towards the front, but she's already swamped and caught by the riders. Laura Luxford closing that gap there.
She's been reeled back in pretty quickly. Maybe that was a move by Lou Bates to get the others to go, to up the tempo, and now she slots into the slipstreams. It is Jackie Godby now at the front, the winner of race number 2. She's joined by plenty of teammates in this group. She's got 2 teammates, incidentally, in this group. Left-hand side of the screen, there's Lou Bates getting ready for the sprint. The watts are starting to peak. The heart rate's still got a little bit of room. The first of the power-ups been exposed, and it is Bree Wilson who has made a run for home, Hannah.
Yeah, Bree Wilson going for this one for St Kilda Cycling Club. She's got the power up and she's opened up just over a 1 second gap now. It's Polly Mason, the rider, who's chasing now for Team Saris. But where is Anna Russell? Where is Lou Bates? The orange numbers are starting to come onto the screen. It's really spread out now with the second gap in between, just over 300 metres to go, Matt.
Polly Mason was doing the chasing. It's now Lou Bates who is up into second position. The battle is on for honours. It's Bates. Duncombe it is now who is challenging her as Wilson has slipped to third place. Duncombe finishing strongly. She gets her nose in front. Bates in second position. Duncombe has managed to get there. Vision E Racing have collected the win once again. A dominant performance by that team. They continue to extend their advantage in the overall standings for the all-important off-the-map Tour jersey.
Well, that was great timing, wasn't it, from Lizzie Duncombe. Lou Bates just going there momentarily too early there. But came so close, but she did get second on today's stage. What could happen on stage 4, Matt?
It was Godby indeed who got the win. So the vision was a little blurry at my end. Hopefully it was clear for you on the Facebook live stream. But it was super close as they were sprinting towards the finish line. Bates and Duncombe neck and neck through that last few hundred metres. But timing is super important. I liked the move, Hannah, by Bree Wilson. She tried to catch them by surprise. She just didn't have the legs to finish it off, but tactically, it was good.
Yeah, very good. Went with around 400 metres to go and just trying to keep everyone by surprise. Maybe, she excels in when the speed is very, very high, wanting to open up the gap to the other riders and just seeing who could actually react to her huge attack there. Didn't pay off, but, I think keep trying. And one day these attacks will pay off going into the finish.
Well, there's one more race to go, and it will be Vision E Racing who'll be trying to make a clean sweep of it. Jackie Godby got Lou Bates just in the finish, and it was Duncombe in third position, Brevard in fourth place, then Laura Luxford, followed by Alice Lethbridge. Polly Mason, good to see her in the front group for the first time, Hannah. Bree Wilson was the next best, and then Anna Russell.
Yeah, great result there for Chelsea Holmes. 44 seconds behind, so the gap from that chasing group, they couldn't close it, but great result for Chelsea. And a standout performance there from Lou Bates, taking second. So that's now from all these stages, fourth, third, now a second. What can Lou Bates do on the final stage on Monday? Can she get that all-important stage victory, Matt?
Oh, it's logical, surely. They're all racing for second place behind Lou Bates. The pattern has to go there. Let's take a look at the team standings on the back of another great result by Jackie Godby, who's made it 2 wins in a row. And Vision E Racing, they have continued to extend their advantage. This is for today's stage. This is not the overall standings, but Vision E Racing, this is how it would look in the overall standings anyway, at the top of the table. St Kilda, they had superior numbers in the lead group, but only gained 6 more points on top of the St Kilda Cycling Club. So the battle between those two teams, Hannah, will be really intense going into the final race.
Well, that's very, very surprising from St Kilda Cycling Club. Despite having those 2 riders, Sydney CC played an exceptional game there. And also, it always mattered about the points from the chasing group. What did they score as well? So great for Sydney CC. It'll be very exciting going into that final stage.
And that's exactly what we spoke about as we take a look at the replay. What happens back in that second group is really important in the battle for the placings in the overall standings. Well, we do need to take a look at that sprint finish once again, because it was a nail-biter. For race number 2, Jackie Godby, she won it solo. This time, Hannah, she's shown her versatility by sprinting, and she really powered home over the last couple of 100 metres. She's got plenty of weapons up her sleeve.
Yeah, she certainly has, with Brie Wilson opening up that gap. We saw an invisibility power-up being used to attack, and that was Brie Wilson making that move. Then we saw another power-up with the lightweight going to the front, and Jackie Godby at this point sitting very, very comfortably, went across the line first as we look now at the intermediate sprint under the rock arch.
And onto the climb. It was really aggressive on the climb, and the lead group, it didn't really thin out any further. They were already reduced down to 9 by the time they got there, but this was a real power climb, and it was impressive to see, Brie Wilson coming up towards the front once again, Brie Vine also getting herself in the mix, and it was a battle, power-ups once again being used to try and collect maximum points. Wilson getting the nod.
Yeah, I think it was a really defining factor, that Queen of the Mountain. If you had to make sure that you're wanting to conserve the energy, but to stay in that front group, you've got to put the power down and go with the leaders when any attacks or moves do start to open up. You can see the finish line shot there, how spread out it was, and Jackie Godby, really just coming from timing it to perfection and coming out there and pipping her teammate Duncombe on the line.
I'm looking forward on Monday to hearing the interview that you do just in a couple of moments with Jackie Godby. I enjoyed the one from the previous race, and we've got one more race to come in this series, and that is on Monday. So Vision E Racing, it has been yet again a dominant performance by them as we take a look one more time at that sprint finish by Jackie Godby to get the victory, her second in a row. It was a tight group just behind her for the minor placings.
Yeah, it was very, very tight, wasn't it, for those minor placings, but Godby ended up with a huge gap there.
And there are the series points. It's effectively an unassailable lead for Vision E Racing, but they want to just continue on this winning pattern in the final race. St Kilda Cycling Club and Sydney CC, they are locked in a really tight battle. Just 6 points separating those two teams with one race to go. Hannah, I thought the gap was going to be bigger given St Kilda had 2 riders in that lead group. It shows the importance of consistency across the whole team.
Yeah, it certainly does. And accumulating as many points as possible throughout the race, not just leaving it to the finish. And it shows, how important the intermediate sprint, the Queen of the Mountains are. And I think, going into the final stage, the riders of Sydney CC will really come together now. Think of a tactic, think of a plan. How are they going to be able to overhaul St Kilda Cycling Club and try and consolidate the second place in this standings?
And then we have Team Saris and R3 are rounding out the top 5 with one race remaining in the Off the Map Tour for 2020. So no surprises, Vision E Racing, after their dominant performances in the first 2 races, they have done the same in race number 3. In the men's series, Hannah, it was the same with Canyon Esports. They've been dominant, but I'm looking forward to the final race on Monday to see who can perhaps challenge them and at least take one of the stages away from each of those teams.
Yeah, both teams in men's and women's have been so dominant, and I think Lou Bates is coming very, very close. Jay Vine coming close as well, and the riders from Indoor Specialists on the men's side trying to challenge Canyon Esports, but all to play for the final stage, and it's going to be a real nail biter, Matt.
Yeah, and whilst we look forward to commentating the final races on Monday, the women, they've got the 3 sisters. The men will be doing the course that you've just seen, the Magnificent 8. I'm going to be on Zwift, and I'm going to be taking part in the Off the Map Tour. I haven't worked it out, Hannah, yet, whether I'm going to do one of the races or just one of the rides. Either way, I'm going to participate and unlock the jersey to be able to take it out into the real world. Hopefully, I'll see you there too, Hannah.
Yes, potentially, but maybe after the racing has finished. I'm still in Austria, and so hopefully I try and get on to try and unlock the MAAP jersey so I can ride it in real life. I think it's a really cool conception, and I think it's a cool idea. You can ride it in real life and virtually.
It is a great jersey. I'll see you on Monday, Hannah, for the final race in the Off the Map Tour. Until then, everybody, enjoy your riding on Zwift. Ride on.